Today we're going to look at the history of architecture in New York. New York was built on a swamp. Manhattan, that is. In fact, when the Dutch West India Company purchased Manhattan from the local Native Americans in 1626, it was a swamp, which is only 1 story tall and was built in 1639. It was originally built by a Dutch settler named Cornelius Jacobson, who built it for his wife, whose name was Gertrude. So they named it Gertrude's Place. Today, it is known as the Wyckoff Farmhouse Museum. Some of the most famous buildings in the world were built during this time period, including Grand Central Terminal, the Chrysler Building, and the Empire State Building. In 1964, the World's Fair was held in Flushing Meadows, Queens. So in the 1960s and 70s, the most famous high-rise apartment buildings were built in New York. Many of the skyscrapers that had been built in the 1960s and 70s were starting to look dated. So architects began to find ways to renovate them to make them look more modern. One of the most famous examples of this is the renovation of the Sony Building. It was originally built in 1984, but in 2004, architect John Paul Jones gave it a major facelift. He replaced the old stone facade with a new glass facade. He also added new windows and a new entrance. One of the most famous of these buildings is the Seagram Building. It was one of the first postmodernist skyscrapers in the world and was designed by architect Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. This fair was an opportunity for New York to show off its modern architecture to the world. Some of the most famous buildings from the fair included the Unisphere, which is still there today, and the New York State Pavilion designed by architect Gilmore D. Rose. As the city grows and changes, so does its architecture. But no matter what style of architecture you prefer, there is no denying that New York is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. These buildings were all built in a style known as Beaux-Arts. This style is characterized by its grand scale, its symmetry, and its classical details. They initially named it New Amsterdam after the capital of the Netherlands, but then it was renamed to New York in 1664. When the English conquered it and made it a part of their colony of Connecticut, the oldest building in New York City that is still standing is the Dutch colonial era. After the English took over New York, they started to develop it more. They built more houses and started to plan the streets out more systematically. One of the most important things that they did was build Fort George in 1664. This was a wooden fort that was built on the tip of Manhattan at what is today Battery Park. Its purpose was to protect the city from the Spanish and the French. In the 1700s, New York grew rapidly. It went from having a population of about 1,000 people to over 10,000 people. Because of this growth, there was a need for more housing and commercial space, so people started to build up instead of out. This led to the development of some of the earliest skyscrapers in the world. The first skyscraper was the Home Insurance Building, which was built in 1854. It was only 5 stories tall, but it was the first building in the world to use an iron frame to support its structure. This allowed for the building to be taller than any other building that had been built up until that point. In the early 1900s, New York became the dominant architectural center of the United States. During the mid-20th century, New York continued to be a leader in architectural innovation. As the city grew, so did the need for housing. In the late 20th century, New York saw a revival of interest in its older buildings. New York has always been a city that is constantly changing. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching.